If you are aware of someone who threatens to hurt people, or have any reason to believe your school may be in danger, please be responsible and let authorities know.
You could always tell a teacher, one you feel comfortable talking with.
Or make the report anonymously. That means no one knows it's coming from you.
If you feel it's necessary, call 911. And if you're afraid to call, it's okay. You're making the right decision.
Inform parents and trusted adults on what's taking place, even if they're at work.
School is where we obtain our education, make friends, and find special interests. It's where we learn the skills to perform in the world. If you're aware of a threat, you can take action and help prevent targeted school violence.
I'm Michele, the computer lady, your host. During some awful dark times in America, Black people were denied the ability to read, to learn how to read, to write, or to even own books. And that has hampered our communities up until this day. Now we're going to have important conversations about the importance and power of reading. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today for the importance and power of reading. Now, I always tell everybody, because we have to allude to the fact that we were enslaved people here in the United States and across the world. But in the United States, we didn't have the ability to read, to write, or even own books. And now more than ever, it's so important that our children and we read in order to, number one, elevate ourselves in our communities. Today, I have a good friend of mine. Her name is Rhonda Weir. And I'm going to give her flowers up front because if it had not been for Rhonda, I would not be Michele the computer lady, because she spurred my love of not only reading, but getting into technology. So I want to introduce to everyone, Rhonda Weir. Rhonda, welcome aboard.
Very excited to be here.
That is awesome. Rhonda, we've been friends for a long time, 30 some odd years.
Yeah.
So do me a favor and tell everybody what you do.
I'm an attorney. I practice family law in New York, and I represent everyone in family court: moms, dads, kids, aunts, uncles, grandparents. Irrespective of what their position are, I go in and try to get them what they need in the case.
That is awesome. So as an attorney, just your occupation alone requires lots of reading, correct?
Oh yeah, tons of it.
So take us a little bit through your law school journey, because that was fun for me, but arduous for you.
Well, law school was a challenge in that what I used to do for leisure, I now had to do for real. And it was constant and it was always on. But the good news is that because I was always a voracious reader, and because I was very interested in the topic and in the way in which the laws work and how the laws are living, they're alive. They have to change and modify as our culture enlightens itself and becomes more inclusive. And as the words have to be lifted off of the page to address the people that the laws are there to protect and to help. So reading is the center of what I do. In fact, a lot of people say that lawyers are professional readers, and we are, because we have to read, we have to interpret, we have to translate. And it's the translation part that's actually very important, because we have to take these sometimes very technical, sometimes not seemingly making sense ideas and concepts, and then communicate those to our clients, which means you first have to read them and understand them, and also be able to explain them in a way that a person who's not in this profession understands. And I just want to make clear, I had I was a philosophy student in undergrad, and I had a philosophy professor tell us one day, I want everyone to look around the room and tell us what you're going to do. So we had people who were going to be engineers, some were going to be computer scientists, others were going to be teachers, whatever. And she basically told us, she said, and this is a quote, in 10 years, you will not be able to talk to each other because each one of those professions develop their own language. And it is only by reading that you're able to take your language and then communicate it to someone else who's not in your area. So it really is very important to know how to read and to learn to read and to learn to interpret what you read.
That is an awesome statement. Now, I have some questions because I'm going to take you back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Did you, because you said you were a voracious reader, did you enjoy reading as a child?
I did. It was an experience for me. It was the way in which I traveled. It was the way in which I saw other lands, other exposed to other cultures, other ideas. I loved reading. In fact, my dad, who had an 8th grade education, he said that he went out and bought the biggest dictionary he could find because I was always asking him about words that he didn't know, right? And so we would have to get out the dictionary and he would look it up and then we would sit there and we would both learn a new word, you know? And I just want to be clear, my father went to the 8th grade. He was raised in Barbados. And at the time that he was coming up, 8th grade was it if you weren't going to be a lawyer or a doctor or a teacher. You know, if you were going to be a carpenter or an electrician or something like that, 8th grade, that was high school. That was it. And everyone else went on to college. So, you know, he is a very smart man. And that's the way he handled having to deal with a kid who just ate up every book she could find. You're muted. I can't hear you.
That is awesome.
Okay.
Now, number one, what was your favorite book as a child?
Science fiction. Isaac Asimov is one of my favorite writers. And in terms of fantasy, which I also did, The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. I read the trilogy, The Hobbit, and then the trilogy, Lord of the Rings, 1972, somewhere about that. And Isaac Asimov is a science fiction writer at the time. And so Childhood's End, Foundation, which I think it was Apple had, it did the series Foundation finally, like 2 years ago or something like that. I'm waiting anxiously for the next season. Yeah.
Being that you've always been a voracious reader and you were reading in advance, who were the people that were influencing you as far as your reading? Was it mom, dad, a teacher, a mentor?
Parents. Full stop, my parents. If there was a book in the house that I hadn't read, you know, they were like, okay, here's the next one. All right, here's the next one. All right, here's the next one. You know, so it wasn't, there was never a moment where I did not have a book or they wouldn't go get a book available for me or take me to the library, you know, or let, you know, my aunts know that you want to get her something, get her a book, because she's just going to sit in the corner, just get her a book, you know. So it was hands down, I was expected to read. I was expected to do my homework. It was expected that I was going to go to college. There wasn't, you know, there was never there wasn't a choice. Why not put it that way? You know? So, yeah, my parents.
That is amazing. Now, what's your favorite book as an adult?
My favorite book as an adult. Well, I did start at still science fiction, fantasy. Octavia Butler. She's a Black woman. She's a librarian. She wrote a series of science fiction fantasy books. She passed away a few years ago, and I think I saw Kindred. Hulu had just done a
Yes.
series based on her book. So those are still my kind of go-tos, and that's the last really favorite that I got into. I mean, I read the Stephen Kings and some of those types of books, but really the science fiction fantasy ones, and more sci-fi, not the manga that some of the kids have. Those are, more like cartoons for me, but a little too young. But yeah.
So now you have a son.
Yes.
And how do you encourage him to read? Because a lot of times in our communities, boys don't tend to read. So how do you push him along to read?
We read with him. We read to him. We've been reading to him since he was, born, literally. There's a book, there are pictures of him as a little baby and us with a book, and, we're reading to him. And we continue to read to him, even though now he's 7. He can read, and we encourage him to read, and we sit with him while he does read and have him read to us now. This is the way it goes. So even if it's like, oh, I don't feel like reading, fine. I'll read a paragraph, you read a paragraph. I'll read a page, you read a page. And that is now his routine. So every day, even his care provider, that's part of his afternoon routine, is he has to sit down and read. Sometimes it's a page, sometimes it's 2 pages. And just the other day, in fact, his caregiver came to us and it's like, he read the whole book. He didn't want to stop. And that's the way it's done. And there's no shortcut, and there's no magic. There's no app. There's no sitting down with your child to read with them is probably one of the most bonding experiences that you can have with your child. So that's it. There's no way around that. You just sit down, you're next to them, you read to them, they read to you.
I love it. Now, we're going to take a small commercial break, and we'll be right back for the importance and power of reading. Stay tuned.
Since 1877, Jackson State University has been training students for a life of service and leadership to impact our global society. Ranked among the best HBCUs in the country, Jackson State University offers 47 undergraduate, 37 master's, 1 specialist, and 13 doctoral degree programs. Whether you're interested in the arts, education, public health, the sciences, or business, we're here to take you from ready to JSU ready. Visit jsums.edu and apply today.
Hi, I'm Michele, the Computer Lady, author and children's book publisher of the Mommy Readers Collection series of books. Well, we know how important it is for us to read, but we also know how important our public hospitals are. We're here in Atlanta. My public hospital is Grady. They saved my life. And I would like to give back, and I need your help to do so. I've created a new fundraiser called Building Towards Our Future. And what's going to happen is we're going to make sure, you and I together, that Grady keeps on serving the marginalized, the poor, and the indigent in the Atlanta metro area. All right, stay tuned for more announcements. I'm going to be telling you how real soon. Thank you for joining me in this fight to make sure that we can live with Grady. Thank you for joining us for the importance and power of reading, I have my guest with me today, Rhonda Weir. She is a family attorney. She practices law in New York State. And we've been talking about not only our books, but talking about how to engage our children in reading. And she says, poignantly, we must read with and to our children, and they must read to us in order for this cycle to be effective. Let's continue with that. Now, we talked about how it's helped you in your life. Do you think you would have gotten as far as you have if you had a struggle reading?
If I had a struggled reading, with the proper support, yes. Struggle just means you just need a little nudge here, a little support there. It's kind of like, if someone has a broken leg, to use an extreme example, it's not that they can't move. You just got to properly support the leg and give them a crutch, and they keep on moving. Because what we do know is that the fastest way to heal is to keep moving.
Exactly.
So you just got to provide the support and keep moving. And I will talk about my son. He does have a reading delay. And the only way that we addressed that was to support him in his reading. So, if we had to create, for example, part of what happens is that the lines on the page can get jumbled. The connection between his eyeballs and his brain jumbles the lines. So one of the supports is to cover all the other lines on the page so that he can just focus on the one line at a time. And he's not using that support anymore because he's built up, that muscle. What
Being able to
people
follow
don't realize is the
line now.
brain is a muscle, and you can train it and you can build it in all kinds of ways, in every kind of way. So providing the support. So yeah, if I had struggled, I have no doubt, knowing my parents, that I would have had the support that I needed. If I wasn't just a voracious reader, I would have had it. And that's the way you help struggling readers.
Now, because you deal with family law and you deal in family court, what do you think about the state of literacy among our children today?
It's it's very frustrating, and what gives me pause is that it's hard to put in rated G terms. I'll put it that way. It's kind of disgusting that the richest country on the planet has the literacy rate that it does. It's unacceptable. We've known it for forever. We know what the solutions are, and we don't put the resources to it. So you can't have 27 children in a classroom and expect them all to get the attention that they'll need in order to succeed, right? They're all going to be on a range. There will be some that, like me, are voracious readers, so you really don't have to worry about. And then there's some that'll be like my son that you need to give a little more support. And there might be some above and below and in between. But, you have one teacher in a room full of 27 kids, you might lose the ones who need that extra help. And you might even lose the ones who don't because you can't keep them challenged enough because you got 27 kids in the room. So, yeah.
So in that, because we know that the teachers are overwhelmed and stressed, and I know that girls, we both are females, and I've been reading since I was 2, and you've been reading since you were young as well. But boys have a harder time quieting their mind and getting in quiet spaces. So how can we help our boys read better? What materials, or how can we direct parents to help them with this crisis that we have right now?
So I'm going to sound like a broken record. We have to read to them. We have to read with them, and we have to have them read to us.
Actually, you're not a broken record. I wanted you to repeat it because people aren't getting it until they get it. We have to have these types of conversations that say, This is the line.
This is it. This is it. There's nothing more. There's no magic sauce. There's no magic potion. There's no app. We have to read to them. We have to read with them, and we have to have them read to us. That's the mixture. That's the magic.
Exactly. And that's what makes me excited, because you've been reading to Kai since he was born.
Yeah. Yes.
And so you were already building his number one love of reading, but his vocabulary skills along with that.
Yes.
Because what he hears is what he will repeat. What he sees is what he'll model. And that's why it's so important. And, you know, for me, talking to you, and we've been, you know, like I said, we've been friends for years, but you gave me a gift as well. And the gift of learning technology, because even though you're a lawyer, you were already back then, and Rhonda's a little younger than me, already pushing forward in technology, because you developed some of your own software for the law practice that you have. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
So you're very well versed, well rounded, and you're an intellectual in your own right. And I know that you like push back on me on that, but you have to accept it, because as you said, and as your instructor said, and you quoted, you all have your own language within your occupation.
Yeah.
And reading is how you bridge it. And the fact that you can explain it so adeptly for people to get it is what makes me smile. And I'm proud to have you as a friend and like family. So
yeah,
now,
family.
What books does your son like, or what books did you introduce him to? Because you like sci-fi,
trains,
but you know,
cars, trains, buses, construction vehicles, cars, trains.
yeah. All the things that he would be engaged in, like, because what I know about boys is the fact that they need to solve problems with their reading. A lot of times they don't read just for fun, but they are looking to have solutions that they gather or they get from reading. So,
right. And I just, now, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to make it's another point I want to drive home. So, like you said, I developed my own software for my law practice. It was a case management system. I recently had to redesign it with another app, because now that when I initially coded it, everything wasn't on the internet. So everything was on desktop based, and I had to move a file from one computer to the other. And then when I went to go online with it, I needed to develop something else in a different application. Okay. I didn't go back to school for any of this, but I had to learn how to program in these different types of apps by reading. And when you talk about different occupations, there's not an occupation on this planet that you don't need to know how to read for. If you're a carpenter, you need to know how to take measurements. You need to know angles. You need to know what kind of wood you're working with, how much it weighs, how much weight it could take. All of that is explained in the label on the piece of wood when you go out to Home Depot to buy it. If you're going to be an electrician, you've got to know how to read. You got to know the difference between AC and DC. You got to know what you have to plug in where and how you have to join them. If you want to do plumbing, it doesn't matter. If you want to do automotives, all these cars are electric, they're computers. You got to know the code, and you have to be able to read the manual. There's nothing anymore that you don't need to know how to read the manual. As a gardener and someone who I used to own bonsai, but there was a lot of reading involved in order to understand how soil works and what I needed to add or subtract or where I need to clip a plant. I did that all by reading about it. And reading is fundamental to everything. It's fundamental to math. It's fundamental to astrophysics. It's fundamental to everything.
And that is absolutely true. All right, we have to take another commercial break. We'll be right back with a few more questions for our guest, Rhonda Weir, family lawyer from the state of New York. Welcome back to our segment on the importance and power of reading. And we're talking today with Rhonda Weir, family lawyer, and she's been explaining to us the importance of reading and the power, because you have to do everything that we do, every vocation, every occupation, every profession requires that we read. So, Rhonda, what guidance would you offer parents of boys and girls to ensure that their children read well, like our parents gave us?
Read to your child, read with your child, have your child read to you. As boring and mind numbing as cars, trains, construction vehicles are to me, they are what excite my son. So I'm on the lookout wherever I go, on books, magazines, whatever, about cars, down to the detail. So focusing him on, okay, well, how many cylinders does this car have? How much horsepower does it have? You know, how much does the gas tank hold, and how far will that gas get you? Or what is that electric technology that now Tesla has in it? Where does it come from? How do you do it? So finding anything that explains that in writing and giving it to him, that's his interest. And with that, I hope to keep him excited about reading. With that, I hope to keep him interested in reading more and further and other topics. But I do have to say, I can't explain enough. I can't describe the feeling of sitting next to him and reading with him and having him read to me and really experiencing and rejoicing in his joy when he struggles through a word and he gets it. There's nothing, just nothing better. So read to your child, read with your child, and have your child read to you.
And also find out what their interests are.
Yes.
Because that's important, especially with boys. You have to make sure you're gravitating them towards what they're interested in, because once they get it and they gravitate toward it, there's no stopping. Now, STEM is big, and STEM is a big buzzword now because I'm in STEM and you are also in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, being able to code your own software, and I teach computer hardware repair. So since it's the future, how can we help our kids learn STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, and STEAM, the art addition to it? And how can we incorporate this in their thirst for knowledge?
So STEM is now. It's not in the future. It's right here. It's right now. It's all over. Kids are being handed tablets in school. The weird thing about the pandemic, the silver lining, is that it really propelled this technology into the hands of people of color, brown folks who wouldn't have had access before, right? Because we know that tablets and these computers are being handed out in all kinds of schools, but not in our schools,
right?
But they had to do it. So it's now, it's here. Again, STEM science is reading. You have to be able to describe your world. That's what scientists do. They describe our world. They explain the way things work and interact in our world. Engineering, they describe how things move and how forces work together or pull things apart. All of that needs to be described, and it is described with language. And sure, you can talk about it, but at some point you've got to write it down. And reading and writing go hand in hand. So to introduce and to keep our kids interested in STEM, you just have to look across the room. The microwave, how does it work? Did you get the manual? Did you check it out? Did you see the warnings? Why are they issuing that warning? Even the trash can has an automatic up and down thing. How does that optical thing work to automatically open the trash can? Well, someone wrote a manual about that. Guess what? And there's all kinds of engineering and physics that went into the development of just that little optical thing on your trash can. So that's the way in which you just look around and you like point out something and say, well, how does that work? And can we read about how that works or how it actually got started? So I am a Neil deGrasse Tyson groupie. Yeah.
That makes two of us. I pray I can get him on the show one day.
And I learned the other day that the X-ray machine that is used in airports was actually developed by an astrophysicist who wanted to use wanted to include X-ray technology in telescopes so that they can look at things in the sky in that visual range, in the X-ray range. It wasn't created to X-ray luggage in an airport. It wasn't created, right, for that. So, something that's developed totally somewhere else can be used over here. But how do they do that? How do they translate all of that? By the word, the written word.
Well, that's why for me, and I'm a big STEM proponent because number one, I'm in it. But writing STEM for kids, because I was chastised by a lady that was supposed to be an editor for me. And she's like, that's too high level. I said, you don't understand the ability of kids to understand something if you break it down properly. Everything we do has a cause and effect. And that's what's so great about reading.
And I would have to say that editor underestimates children. That's something we should never do. So I've been an attorney in family court for going on 25 years. And the one thing that I have learned is that the kid is usually the smartest one in the room. Don't underestimate them. Don't assume something's too high level. They'll ask, or they'll just tell you, I really don't know what you're talking about. Because they don't have a filter. They ain't worried about your feelings.
They are not.
So,
every time I talk to my grandson,
don't assume that something is too high level. Just give it to them, and then have a conversation with them. That's the whole point. Even if it is too high level, then you have a conversation. How are you doing? Did you get that? How could we make it? Maybe I need to go back and look at it. It'll help me because I'll learn a different way to communicate the concept. So, don't underestimate your kids. They know a lot more than you think they know. And
exactly. And they're always listening and always hearing.
Right.
Rhonda, I want to take this time to thank you for joining me today.
I want to thank you for asking me. This has been great. I really enjoyed it. It's great to see you and hang out and just chat, but thank you.
Well, there's so much to give, and I know this conversation is going to elevate our generation and us as parents. Mm-hmm. Everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you, Rhonda, for being so kind.
Thank you.
We'll see you on the next segment of The Importance and Power of Reading. Stay tuned. We'll be bringing this to you with lots of different occupations, lots of people in the different sciences, technology, engineering, and math fields that have struggled with reading, some that haven't. But we're here to inform you and let you know about the importance and power of reading. Good day to you all. Thank you so much. I'm Michele, the Computer Lady, and good evening.
If you're 45 and over, listen up tonight. Colon cancer untreated could take your life. Get it right, get screened, no time to be silent. Take a home test or hit your healthcare provider. Colon cancer in the black and brown community, no joke. Chill on the alcohol, ease up on the smoke. Realize there's hope, but you gotta catch it early though. Without a health screening, you won't even know. Get tested, pay attention to the signs. Talk to your doctor and check your behind. What's coming in and what's coming out. Healthy eating is always the best route. I suggest you talk to your family, your inner circle, and screaming and proactive, and it won't hurt you. We all want to live our lives the best we could be. Go check your colon. Peace, I'm Chuck D. Save lives, and keep the people meaning. Stand up to cancer and get a screening. Save lives, take control of your health. Get knowledge for yourself, and it's the real wealth. Save lives, and keep the deeper meaning. Stand up to cancer and get a screening. Save lives, I'ma tell you the deal. Colon cancer is real.
StandUpToCancer.org/colon-cancer.
Hi, my name's Sarah. And I'm Lenny. We have a story about stranger safety and knowing when to shout, run, and tell. A stranger is a person you don't know. You shouldn't talk to strangers or go anywhere with them, even if they seem nice. I learned that last weekend when we went to the park with my mom. We see strangers every day, and they're usually nice and friendly. So we don't have to be afraid of strangers. But we should always make smart choices around people we don't know. Whoa! Hi, doggy. That's why I thought we shouldn't pet this strange man's dog. Come on, Lenny, kick the ball back. Hold on, this dog's so cool. His dog was pretty cute. She could shake and roll over. Her owner said that he had puppies in his car. He seemed really nice. But we have to be smart around all strangers. And being smart means never being alone with someone you don't know or going where they tell you. Now he said the puppies were at his house around the block. He wanted us to go there with him. I told him no. We had to go home. Then he started to come towards us. That's when we ran away. We found my mom and told her what happened.
Sarah and Lenny made the right choice to run away. Strangers you meet might have pets, or offer you candy, or even ask you for help. But stranger safety means that you should never go anywhere with a person that you don't know. When a stranger asked Sarah and Lenny to go with him, Sarah knew to shout no, run away, and tell. Most strangers are good people, but we always have to follow the stranger safety rule to be safe. If someone you don't know wants you to go somewhere with them, tell them no. Get away and tell a grown-up.